Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Now today I'm going to be making a hazelnut type cake. It's actually going to be a layered cake, so 2 layers of cake, and sandwiched between it will be a hazelnut buttercream made with Nutella, or in some places they call it Nutella for some strange reason. And butter and icing sugar, basically. I may put a few ground hazelnuts in or chopped hazelnuts in as well, just for additional texture. But the cake itself, or the cakes themselves, will have some ground hazelnuts in as well, just to add a little bit of texture and flavour to the cake. Now, although I'm making 2 cakes and sandwiching them together, you could halve the recipe and just make 1 cake, and as a standalone cake it would be very nice with some cream or some ice cream or something. But I'm going to make the 2, and it'll be quite large, I think, if it works well. And so for the ingredients, I have 330 grams of plain flour. I have 280 millilitres of melted butter. Now you could use oil, and if you wanted to use oil it would be 240 millilitres of oil, but I prefer butter in cakes. The oil for me gives a slightly strange taste, even if it's flavourless oil. I have 400 grams of caster sugar or granulated sugar, 4 medium eggs, that would be large in the USA, 60 grams of ground hazelnuts. I've just got hazelnuts which I put in a grinder and processed until they were like this. You don't want to go too far because you'll end up with a paste. I have 360 millilitres of sour cream, or soured cream. So it's going to be a soured cream and hazelnut cake, basically. I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of salt, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I've also got my oven preheating to 180 Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, or 350 Fahrenheit, and I have greased 2 8-inch springform pans, and I've lined the bottom with baking parchment, so they're ready to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is to put the baking powder, baking soda and salt together with the ground hazelnuts into the flour, and I'm going to just whisk those round to get them mixed into each other. And the hazelnuts smell wonderful already. But I'll set that aside for a moment, and I'm going to take the eggs and I'm going to whisk those until they're all nicely mixed. And then I'm going to add in the other wet ingredients. That's the vanilla and the soured cream. Now you could use yogurt instead of soured cream. I guess you might even use buttermilk. I don't know quite how that would work, but I'm sure it would be fine. I'm going to whisk those together, and then I'm going to add the melted butter. It's still warm, so I want to make sure that I have the eggs mixed in with the cream, so that the chances of the eggs cooking under the heat of the butter is reduced. And then I'm going to pour the butter in and whisk it together. Okay, so then the next thing is to add the sugar in as well. And we'll whisk again. And then we need to put that into our flour mixture. And mix it until it's all combined. Doesn't take a lot of mixing. And that's as good as you need to do. And there are a few little lumps in there. Most of that is hazelnut, of course. But you don't need to do any more than that. You just need to then put that into the cake tins, about half and half. And then we just spread it around to level it off. And they can then go into the oven and bake for 40 to 45 minutes. The cake should start to come away from the edge of the pan, and the skewer in the middle should come out clean. So when it does that, I'll take them out of the oven and let them cool down, and then I'll come back and show you the results. Okay, well, I'm back with you, and I've taken the cakes out of the oven and turned them out. A skewer in the centre tested clean, so they're fine. So I'm going to put those to one side because they're still cooling down. And while they're cooling down, we'll start with making the buttercream. So I have 300 grams of icing sugar, 150 grams of softened butter, and this Nutella, hazelnut and chocolate, and 3 tablespoons of milk. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually put the butter into a bowl, and then I'm going to just whisk that a little bit. And I've spread that around. So then what I'm going to do is put the icing sugar in, and I'm going to use a spatula at first just to get that moistened. If I use the whisk, it will just go all over the place. So I'm going to press that into the butter. And I'm going to add the milk as well. That's enough, I think. So then I'll go back to the whisk, and we'll just whisk that together. And with that whisked together, I'm just going to add in 200 grams of Nutella. And that's almost 200 grams. Maybe you need a little bit more. Need another 5. That's fine. So the rest is for me. And then I'm going to whisk that in. And that is it for the buttercream. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just put that in the fridge and chill it a little bit while the cakes continue to cool down, and when they're completely cool I'll come back and we'll put them together. Okay, so I'm back with you, and our cakes have cooled down. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some of our hazelnut and chocolate buttercream and put it on the top of one of the cakes. Then I'm going to spread that around. Trying to get it reasonably level. And it doesn't have to be too thick. And then I'm going to put the other cake on top of it. And just press it down like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a thin layer of the buttercream on top of that. I have more buttercream than I need actually. And the reason for this thin layer is that I'm going to sprinkle some chopped hazelnuts on the top, just to give it a bit of a finish. And that's as good as it needs to be, I think. And then put some chopped hazelnuts on. As many or as little as you want, really. I'm just going to pat those. Like that. And with that, I'm just going to cut it and take out a slice. It's rather a large slice. Whoops, and I've dropped it. And so then we'll have a taste. Even though I dropped it, doesn't affect the taste. That's a nice light cake with that sour cream and the hazelnuts inside the cake. And that buttercream taste with the hazelnut and slight chocolate hit come through very well indeed. So I think that's been rather a success. I quite like it. I hope you've enjoyed the recipe, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen, as ever, there will be a link which will take you to the recipe, and I'll also put a link to the recipe below the video. And I will be back with you in the near future with another recipe. So until then, happy baking.